Hello and welcome. It's Frances here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, well then I bid thee welcome. If you like the content, I would recommend that you subscribe and also push the bell because I do upload content on a rather ad hoc basis. We're coming up to the 31st of January, and here in the Southern Hemisphere that marks the time of Lammas or Lanasa, the time of the first harvest. And as such, I thought I might read from my book Dancing the Sacred Wheel, Journey Through the Southern Sabbath. This is actually the first edition, which I published in 2012. Came out to 10 years this year. It's now available in a larger format, online, and through all the usual outlets, hopefully, if not ask. So, Lanasa. As the wheel slowly turns in its endless cycle, the sun continues its journey northward towards the equator and away from the earth. As it enters the astrological sign of Aquarius, we arise at Lanasa, the time of the first harvest, that of the grain. Just as the seasons change with the turning of the wheel, so too do the guises of the god and goddess, as they expose a further layer of the mystery to those who are paying attention. Here Lanasa brings with it the hottest month of the year, as the northerly winds blow across the Simpson Desert from the tropical north. Humidity rises if there is no westerly to clear away the heat. In the south of Australia, everything is gasping for breath as the rising heat almost becomes unbearable and the danger of bushfires loom ever closer. However, it is through the fires and the scorching heat that many of the native plants actually germinate. In other parts of the country, particularly the eastern states, southeast Queensland and northeastern New South Wales, there is a danger of flooding. From the south, we watch with a certain degree of envy, longing for the rain to change its natural cycles from west to east and venture south at this time of the year. And ironically, this year, 2022, we did get a storm just last week actually come through, dumped a whole lot of rain. We had severe flooding on York and Eyre Peninsulas, and I think it's also damaged the road and the rail between Adelaide and Darwin. And now it's moved on to Melbourne and Victoria. So be careful what you wish for. To the Ngarrindjeri people who live at the Murray mouth, which is of the Huron River, the Huron area, southeast of Adelaide, a couple of hours drive from Adelaide, the time of the crow has arrived and will last until April. For Darwin and the top end, it is now the wet season as the monsoonal rains arrive, turning the landscape green and vibrant, yet also bringing with them humidity and thunderous tropical storms. Water cascades over the escarpments and flows through the ancient sandstone valleys and onto the floodplains and billabongs of the Alligator River system, resulting in abundance of fish for the local people. The night sky at Lanasa has the brightest star, Sirius and Canis Major, directly overhead, and to the north the brilliance of Orion the Hunter. The brightest star that makes up the constellation of Orion, this Betelgeuse, is pale red in colour and can easily be seen. Hydra the water snake stretches across the sky from southeast across towards the north, taking up such a large part. The Southern Cross is close to 9 o'clock, and in the southwest, Pisces and Aries are approaching their setting. The sun god who has ruled the summer solstice now becomes the god of the grain and of the harvest. As his power begins to wane, reflecting that of the sun, he knows that his destiny is to sacrifice himself so that life on the land may continue. In doing this, he takes on the spirit of the corn. As the corn is cut down, so the corn spirit dies. However, when he is born again next year, the corn also rises once more. This is the role of the divine victim that English Egyptologist and anthropologist Margaret Murray spoke of in her now refuted book, The God of the Witches. Another aspect of the god is very noticeable at this time of the year, that of the horned god, the older, mature version of the young stag we met at Imbolc. At this time of the year, the goddess seems to develop a split personality. On the one hand, she is the bountiful mother, protecting the precious grain of life that is growing within her. On the other hand, she is the crone wielding the sickle of death. While she expresses sadness at the loss of her beloved consort, this is the cycle of life, and from his death will come his rebirth at the winter solstice, enabling them to be together again. I might just pause reading from my book and share with you a passage or a poem invocation section that sort of ties in what I've just finished reading about the god and the goddess from Anna Franklin's book, Lughnasadh, History, Law and Celebration, that she wrote with Paul Mason. This is a very good book. I do highly recommend her books, especially if you are interested in a lot of British folklore or folk customs altogether. And also her herbal knowledge is totally outstanding. She's got recipes, rites, history, a whole lot of information in this book. But what I want to share with you is, I suppose it's a poem or a section from one of her rituals, which taps into this divine victim aspect of the god at this time of the year. The year did spin and spring come around, while our dear Lord lay in the ground, till rain fell thick upon his head, and slowly then he raised his head, and grew apace till midsummer's day, when with his flowering bride he lay. But the year does spin and he must die, and as a seed must once more lie, we hunt him down with sharpened sickle, and pierce his heart and see blood trickle, to flay his skin from off his bones and grind him up between two stones. Our dying Lord has lost his head, but with his death we have our bread. And if you are at all familiar with, I think it's actually Robbie Burns' poem, The Killing of John Barleycorn, that is the source of that section that I've just read. So happy Lughnasadh, Lammas, for those of us in the southern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere, it is Imbolc, Candlemas, it's the gateway to spring. Blessings.